This is the American suburb. It's the defining landscape of the United States. Compared to the dense apartments and walkable streets of the European city, the US suburb looks different. The houses and lawns are perfectly maintained. The streets are wide and the homes look inviting. And yet, walking through these neighborhoods feels weird. Except for a few passing cars, there is no one there. The suburbs look like never-ending wasteland. And this is not by an accident. This is by design. The very design that was supposed to make these neighborhoods a dream has turned them into a place where not mowing your lawn is illegal. This is the story of the American suburb. Cities in the United States aren't known for dense housing. Apart from high-rises of major downtowns, the landscape is rather flat.
This is Levittown, Pennsylvania, a new suburban community of 60,000 people. It is fairly typical of communities all over America, where families are pursuing the American dream to give their children a better chance in life.
That is because in most American cities, 75% of residential land is zoned for the detached single-family home. This means that other forms of housing, like terraced houses or apartment blocks, aren't just rare. Building them is against the law. This restriction also prevents properties from being divided into smaller, more affordable units. The house, just like the car, needs to be big. By contributing to what urbanists call the missing middle, the lack of medium-density housing that makes cities walkable, America made it impossible for neighborhoods to grow as more people move in.
In most residential neighborhoods, the only place you can walk to is another house or another garage. It's revealing that the placement of suburban garages makes them the single most prominent architectural feature of a typical streetscape.
But this law isn't an accident. It began in 1916 in California as a way to maintain race and class segregation. By effectively banning anything but a large house, planners could price out anyone who couldn't afford to buy an entire property. These officials became wealth managers. They protected home values instead of building communities. Even though the original reason for these laws was forgotten, the dream of the suburban house stayed in people's minds for good. But what's more concerning is that most of those houses look nearly the same. And that is because it is often illegal to do anything else. Many towns use review commissions that reject a new home simply for being too different. They call it excessive dissimilarity. In places like Belrose, New York, these commissions review everything from the building materials to the exact placement of the windows. A homeowner might hold the keys, but the town hall chose the color of the front door years before they arrived. This is the first component of why suburbs look so weird. The second is the American lawn. The look of the American lawn is a matter of law, not just the culture. But to understand why, we have to look back to the 18th century. The lawn began as a green carpet, an invention of French and British aristocrats to show off their power. Early American leaders like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington obsessed over this. They used ha-has around their properties. The ha-ha is a sunken fence originally designed to keep livestock at a distance. Their other, more subtle benefit is creating the illusion of never-ending landscape. It was impressive, and for the elites, kind of convenient. But when the average suburb tried to copy that high-class look on a smaller scale, it quickly turned into a burden. The most popular grass in the United States is an invasive species from Europe. It evolved to be stepped on and eaten by cows. In the American climate, it's a high-maintenance alien that requires constant help to stay alive. To make matters worse, local governments enforce weed laws that dictate exactly how high a grass can grow. In some places, if the grass gets taller than 8 inches, the city sends a crew to mow it and sends back a bill for hundreds of dollars. If the owner doesn't pay, the government can even put a lien on the house. The social pressure forces residents to use chemicals and fertilizers just to avoid being judged. Today, lawns are the single largest irrigated crop in the United States. Every day, Americans use around 26 billion gallons of water, and nearly a third of that goes just to keeping the grass green. And to buy all the fertilizers, people need to drive 6 miles to the nearest garden center. This is what urbanists call Euclidean zoning, a system that keeps where people live completely separate from where they work and shop. Which brings us to the car dependency. The US zoning laws have created nearly 8 parking spaces for every single car in the country. In Europe, this ratio is closer to 1 space for 1 car. It may be harder to find parking spot, but it allows people to walk for grocery shopping. In many US cities, however, a parking lot must be 3 times the size of the business it serves.
The shopping centers see these young adults as people whose homes are always in need of expansion. People who buy in large quantities and truck it away in their cars.
This creates a massive gap between the things people need and the places they live. Suburbs are caught in a spiraling effect. Traffic creates a demand for wider roads. Planners remove parks and sidewalks to make room for more lanes. This results in a stroad, a hybrid between a street and a road. This road is much wider than needed for 2 cars passing, and yet there is no sidewalk. It is too fast to be safe for people walking and not very efficient for cars. As the roads get bigger and the distances get longer, public transport becomes less efficient and more expensive to maintain. In Milan, Italy, a person takes about 350 trips on public transport every year. In San Diego, California, that number drops just to 17. And those are most likely people who couldn't afford an Uber. The car dependency is the final component that makes the American suburb look so unsettling. When you combine all the components, you get the perfect recipe for a liminal space. A liminal space is a place that feels like it's only for passing through, like an empty airport or a long hallway. Usually, these places feel weird because they are empty when they should be full. Suburbs should be full of people, but they are often silent. Normally, if a place is this empty, it should be in decay. But in the suburb, everything is perfectly maintained and quiet, which creates a haunting, dreamlike feeling. If you walk through a European suburb, like in Amsterdam, you notice the difference instantly. The streets are narrower and the cars are smaller. In many places, there is a tram or a bike path that people actually use. The buildings might also be similar to each other, but there is a lot more variety in their shapes. The presence of people walking and biking tells you that the area is inhabited by humans. The American suburb, however, remains a perfectly maintained stage where the actors never show up.